In this demonstration, we're going to use the TransSECS GEMHost sample project along with the standalone tool that comes as part of TransSECS to build a GEMHost application. When I open the GEMHost project, the first node allows me to configure my connection to the tool. I can give it an intelligent name. I can also provide the IP address or the host name for the tool. Here we're using the standalone tool on our local computer, so this is just localhost. The device ID and the port are parameters that come from the tool and are usually configured at the tool, so you may need to ask the tool owner for these values. The timeouts provided here are the defaults, and unless you have some reason to change them, those are usually the right choices. Any of these parameters can be changed at runtime. The deployment type we'll talk about later. When you're building a host application, usually what is of most interest is events that are coming from the tool. The tool will send you unsolicited indications of interesting things that happen at the tool. This typically includes things like lot loaded, process start, process end, lot unloaded, and recipe step start. There can be a variety of these things that you want to keep track of. Typically, you'd have to go to the manual and start looking at these parameters and seeing which ones you want to use. Within TransSECS, we get these values live from the tool. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete these fields because they may or may not be for our current tool. And I'm going to re-add them so that we can perform our characterization with clean values. After I've done that, I need to build the application by hitting the star and the hammer here. And then I'm going to go live online with the tool. You see that immediately TransSECS will make a connection to the tool, and we see log messages appearing in the standalone tool. Now I can request all my CIDs directly from the tool. And by default, TransSECS will not change its configuration. So when we get these values, we also need to check off the tool configured property for any events we're interested in configuring ourselves. Since we usually want to associate values with events, I'm going to request all the values from the tool. The connection between values and events is done through what SECSGEM calls reports, and I can request existing reports from the tool. Frequently, there will be no existing reports, and that's certainly the case here. So now I can rebuild this application, and we'll see those events when they're triggered at the tool. To see the log window in TransSECS, I need to click on a message and we'll see the log. I clear the log, and when I send an event, we see the event is received in TransSECS. To associate values with these events, what I need to do is add a report. And so I'll add a report, and I need to give this a value, a report ID. The report ID is your choice, but it must be unique. And I can give it a name just to make it an intelligent value. Then simply what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose the values I want to see when the lot is loaded and add them to my report. And I can choose any values and associate them with this report. Once I've done that and I have my loaded report here, I need to go to my loaded event and take my report and associate it with this event. Now, when I build again, and I send the report, we'll see that now it has values. And so for instance, one of the values we requested was the lot ID. And so if I put the lot ID in my tool, then when I send this event, it will have the lot ID associated with it. I can repeat this for as many report IDs as I need. Perhaps my loaded, I want to see what process program ID, what recipe we're running, and the current wafer count. Now on my started event, I can associate that report ID. You can associate multiple report IDs, so let's take both the loaded and the started. Now when I receive the started event from the tool, it will now have both those values, both those reports. What we've done here is we've assigned names to the values we want to see. So if you look at this report as it came in, it's kind of confusing. We have a list of a list of a list of a list with some values in the middle. But what we've done over in TransSECS is we've refined this to the point where we know that we're going to get the PPID and the wafer count, and we're going to get the control state, the lot ID, and the PPID. And when we've deployed our TransSECS application, we're not going to be dealing with these complex lists of lists of lists. We're going to be dealing with these values by name and managing those values as they're received in these reports. As part of a basic SECS application, the other thing you'll usually want to do is send a host command. Typically these are used for things like recipe selection or to start the tool. The exact format of a host command is defined in the SECS manual for your particular tool, and we provide these as examples. The format of the message is always the same. You're going to see a command in this location, and you're going to see a list or multiple lists of name-value pairs that define the parameters. And you'll see these in the manual. So for example, here we have a start command, and our start command will take a name of PPID and expects a value that is the recipe name associated with that. You can test these again from TransSECS. So by building these messages or modifying the messages that are already there, we can build this application and go live online with the tool. And in our standalone tool, we want to choose what response we're going to give to this message. And for now, we're going to say it's OK. We accept this message and we're good with the response. So now I'm ready. I can send this. I can change the value that I want to put in here. And I can send that message to the tool. And in this case, I send my message and it goes with the recipe 1. And we see that in the PPID field on the tool. And I get a good response from the tool. When we've completed and tested our application, we need to deploy it. There are a large number of options for deploying from TransSECS. You will not see all these in your TransSECS application. MI Studio allows you to build a drag and drop application using Ergotech's MI Studio tool. The OPC options, OPC UA and legacy OPC DA, allow you to deploy the application as an OPC UA or OPC DA server. PLC and devices is a slightly different application that'll be covered in a future video. AWS Kinesis and Azure IoT allow you to communicate with the cloud, as does MQTT. Java, JavaScript, .NET, and C++ or native applications are used when you want to use the application programmatically. How to work with these deployments is covered in additional videos or on the website.